Reading and writing for me came about in a way familiar to many others. I grew up in a small community in San Diego, California. Both my parents were religious enough and had the means to send me to a small Catholic school nearby. During the day, we would read at school and be taught the meanings behind our readings. They would read certain Bible passages to us and explain the metaphors hidden within them. At night, my parents would read to me while I was going to sleep, and in the mornings I would informally answer questions about what we had read. My family made sure to nurture my interest in reading and writing when I was young by placing emphasis on the importance of literacy. It was through my greater understanding of literature by school and my parents reading to me that I have been shaped into an avid reader of literature. From The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien to The Odyssey by Homer. Around the age of 3 to 6, my mother would read books to me before I went to bed. These books were usually popular books that had recently come out, but the one I distinctly remember, though, was Harry Potter. It's hard to remember which one of the series it was, but I know I enjoyed it. I would sit next to my mother as she read the books aloud to me. Over time, I would recognize certain words made certain sounds. This was the first key to reading. My mother would read me a chapter a night from the book to get me to fall asleep. But the opposite happened. I would think about what I had read for hours after she left. I would recall what the characters did and then wonder what they would do next. I would make up intricate plots for the characters and think about what the characters would do in these situations. Without mine or my mother's knowledge, we were participating in what Shirley Bryce Heath would describe as a classic literacy event. A literacy event is an occasion where the written language is integral to the nature of the participants' interactions and their interpretive processes and strategies. By having my mother read to me, it created a situation in which the written language was important. When I would wake up in the mornings, I would share with my parents what the main characters of the story had done in the book. This showed a comprehension of what I had read and an ability to verbalize it. With my mother asking questions back to me, I was being socialized in an initiation-reply-evaluation sequence. This sequence consists of an authority figure, my mother, asking the student, me, questions in which they have an answer for already. The child would respond, and the parent would provide feedback as an evaluation on how close the child was to the correct answer. This sequence would then be used throughout my entire schooling career as the standard format. The sequence also helped to create a positive feedback loop for reading. The more I read and shared what I had read, the more my parents would ask about the literature. This encouraged me to read more so I could share more about my readings. My parents' encouragement to read was one way that they were a literacy sponsor. Deborah Brandt defines a literacy sponsor as any agent who enables, recruits, suppresses, or withholds literacy and gains advantage by doing so. My mother acted as a literacy sponsor when she read to me. She was enabling me to continue reading and modeling for me how to read. She could also be seen as regulating what I had read by only reading certain books she's approved of. The advantage she gained from all this was to have a child who could read and begin participating in literacy. Another motive, which is also possible, was an ideological motivation. Brandt describes the sponsors delivering an ideological fright to the sponsored. One of my mother's beliefs is the importance of literacy in helping to move up on both the social and the economic ladders of life. It was most likely unintended by my mother, but her beliefs were shaping my ideas on the importance of reading. This ideological formation was also playing a role in creating a family discourse. According to James Paul G., a discourse is a way of being in the world. They are forms of life which integrate acts, values, beliefs, attitudes, and social identities as well as gestures, glances, body positions, and clothes. By having my mother read to me, I subliminally picked up on her movements and positions. I listened to her beliefs and values, and I saw how she acted. A discourse is not mastered by overt instruction but by an apprenticeship. In this discourse, we become a part of the family unit. All of our actions were done to help our family. We valued literacy because it represented a form of vertical mobility. We believed we should contribute to our family by doing the best we were capable of, and we used writing to communicate with friends and family. I could not have been taught this, nor do I think my mother even thought about teaching it, but only through experience did I learn our family discourse. This discourse shaped my current being by molding my beliefs, attitudes, and values. Writing and speaking became reminiscent of the styles and beliefs I picked up from my family. Once I mastered this discourse, I was considered a full member of my family group, with all the perks of being a part of the family. This discourse and many others eventually formed my current identity kit. An identity kit is an appropriate costume and instruction on how to act, talk, and often write, so as to take on a particular role that others will recognize. My identity kit is composed of several discourses which, like my family discourse, some are dominant discourses. A dominant discourse is a secondary discourse, the mastery of which often brings with it the potential acquisition of social goods. By gaining some goods from my family discourse, it became a dominant discourse. When I was just learning how to read, I went to a small Catholic school in San Diego, California. This school was important because it taught me not only to follow my reading, but also how to comprehend what I was reading. Each day we would read a Bible passage while the teacher read it out aloud. After we finished reading, she would then ask us a question on what we had just read. Our answers were usually concrete by saying what the characters were doing or the character's location. Our teacher would then begin answering the question in an abstract manner. She would start telling us the meanings behind the passages. This opened up the idea that there could be messages behind what we read. I began to apply this to other pieces of literature that I had read and found meanings in them as well. I learned about metaphors, similes, symbolism, and other such things to expand my knowledge of literature. My teacher acted as a literacy sponsor in these events. She promoted our literacy and its understanding of it at the same time as regulating it by only giving us certain materials to read. The advantage she gained from this was a credit of association with teaching young children on how to read. There was also another motive of ideological assimilation with Catholic ideals, since we only read the Bible. The teacher also strengthened the idea that reading was a way to success on an economic and social level in light through her own beliefs. The interactions here encouraged me to begin reading more. By following how my first teachers acted and what they did, I formed an apprenticeship with my teachers in mastering the discourse of schooling. I had been introduced to this before with my family in the initiation reply evaluation sequence, but this is where it took shape. By watching how my teachers reacted to our actions in the classroom, either good or bad, we were able to form a mastery through a trial and error process. In this discourse, we wrote essays and other academic materials, and we gained knowledge from our teachers. Learning was valued in this discourse because of the belief that it would help us achieve great things. I connected the value of learning from this discourse to the value of literacy from my family discourse because they both had the same beliefs in it. This is where I connected the idea of learning through literacy. This was a secondary discourse, with a mastery of which often brings solidarity with a particular social network, but not wider status and goods in the society at large. I'd become a part of this social group collectively known as school, but had not gained anything from it. The discourse I learned here would be constantly evolving over time as I changed schools and grades. This falls in line with Gill's idea that all discourses constantly change due to new interactions. The constantly changing nature of it also follows Brett's idea of accumulating literacy. We accumulate literacy over our entire lives, changing over time. My early life had a big influence on my current literary life. I went to a Catholic school that valued the importance of reading. They taught me how to better interpret what I was reading, which also encouraged me to read. The school helped me to find meanings behind the works, which only encouraged me to read even more to find what the meanings were. My parents would read to me at night because they valued literacy. They made sure to push me at bedtime readings towards understanding why reading was important. Their push to have me finding literacy important helped to encourage my greater amount of reading. It was because of these events that I'm an avid reader of literature today.